Hey everyone, John Henry here from School of Trade, and today we're going to be talking about trading with head and shoulders patterns. So head and shoulders patterns have been around pretty much forever. It's one of the first things that every new trader learns. It's a very, very common pattern. The thing about it is, though, it's really easy to find, but on top of that, it's a very high percentage trade when you use it correctly. So the head and shoulders pattern is basically just a reversal pattern. It's most commonly used at market tops or bottoms if you're looking at an inverted head and shoulders. And it's a really easy way to find really solid entries, really solid exits, and just overall getting into the trade with a nice pattern. So a typical head and shoulders pattern, which we've got right here, sometimes can be a little bit harder to see. You might not automatically see something like this. You know, you always see those pictures where it's a nice shoulder, head, shoulder, and it looks really, really good, but a lot of times it doesn't show up like that. You get something like this where it comes up, makes that peak, then makes the high, and then kind of a little bit of an off peak, and then goes down from there. It's still a head and shoulders, it just doesn't look perfect like you see in those pictures. Now, in terms of the head and shoulders pattern, you know, where do you enter, where do you exit, how do you actually trade the pattern itself? Well, the first part is actually defining the pattern. You need to find the pattern before you can trade it. So right here, if we look at this pattern here, we have a nice rise higher, and we pull back and we make this shoulder area right here. You can see how it kind of rounds off that area there. So you've got the shoulder here, the head, which is always typically going to be taller than the other shoulders, is right here, and then we've got the right shoulder right here. Now, once you have that pattern defined, the entry is really just a break of the neckline, but you've got two different options. You can either take an aggressive entry at the break of the neckline, or you can wait for a pullback. So in this example, we can draw a trend line right from the neckline. We'll just connect the lows down here. That way you can see we've got the neckline for the shoulder and the other shoulder all coming in line. We have the left shoulder a little bit lower than the head, which is up here, and the right shoulder, which also comes in a little bit lower down here. So looking at this, we've got two different options. We've got a break of the neckline for our entry. That's going to be the aggressive entry. And the reason we just say it's aggressive is because you're getting in right at the break. You're not giving it any time to come back, give it a retest, just overall a little bit more aggressive. In this case right here, the first break of the neckline really happens on this candle, and we close outside of that. Now, you could enter right at the close there. You could also enter at the break of that shoulder level right there. Either way you want to enter it, though, that would be the way that you would hop into it. You could also just mark it in on as it's going down and breaking that neck level, but that's going to be a little bit too aggressive. You'd at least want to wait for that close, or at least the break of that shoulder line there. Now, we're in the trade. Let's say we just use that shoulder line there. We're in the trade here. Now, where do we place our stop? Where do we place our targets? Well, the stop, if we draw our entry right here, just so we can see it a little bit easier, this is going to be the entry. Now, our stop is actually going to go above the previous shoulder, which is going to be up here. Now, you don't want to put it directly on that shoulder, maybe a little bit above it, so you just bump it up a couple ticks. But that's going to be where your stop is. So your stop is going to go above that shoulder there. And now where's the target go? Well, the target's actually pretty easy to find. Basically, it's sort of like an AB equals CD pattern, but you're using it in more of a bigger pattern type. So to get the target, what you want to do is you want to measure from the top of the head up here to the lowest point of one of the shoulders, whichever point on the shoulder is lowest. In this case, it's right here. So we're going to measure from here to there. And then we're just basically going to copy paste that from the low of the shoulder point here down to that projected level. So what we can do is we can use the Fibonacci retracement tool here, and we'll just start at the low, we'll go up to the high, and right back down to the low again, and that gives us a 100% move. Now, alternatively, you can also just draw an arrow from the top to the bottom there and just drag it down. You'll see it ends up in the same place. But right here, this 100% extension down here, that's going to be our target. And you can see it bounced off of that level. A lot of people saw this pattern set up right here and traded that breakdown, and they came down, took their target right there at the 100%. Now, the nice thing about these head and shoulders patterns is they typically give you a really nice risk to reward. So looking at our entry point here is 27 ticks to our stop. Roughly 27, depending on where you placed your stop. From our entry to our target, however, you're looking at 52 ticks. So you're pretty much always going to be around a 2-to-1. So a pretty solid trade pattern just by itself. Now, that's going to be the head and shoulders pattern and how you can enter it. There are a couple other ways that you can enter it, though. Now, this is going to be a very conservative way to enter it, but once you get this breakdown here, you would wait for a pullback to retest that neck level and then get short there. You can see in this case, when you do it that way and you're a little more conservative, you might not get that entry. So there are going to be those times where when you're playing a little bit more conservative, it's not going to give you that pullback deep enough to hit that level. And that just kind of happens when you're playing a little bit more conservative. But that's going to be trading head and shoulders patterns. If you have any questions about it, feel free to send an email to School of Trade. And don't forget to check out our trial at schooloftrade.com. Have a good one. Bye.